Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Football Experience podcast. Hopefully, you guys have had a good summer and a good Euros as well. Obviously, now that is over, but we've got the Premier League, of course, to look forward to now, starting on Friday. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, really. We're going to have a talk about the Premier League fixtures for game week 1, which Javen will take us into in just a moment. And then we'll talk about our Premier League table predictions, where we think each team is going to finish in the table. And perhaps, you guys as well, if you want to put anything in the comments as well, are more than welcome to submit what you guys think and who will finish where in the Premier League table as well, and your predictions for game week 1. So, without further ado, Javen, would you like to take us into the predictions for game week 1? It is come up fast, the Premier League already, so we're looking forward to it. I can imagine you guys are as well.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So what I'll do is I will read out my predictions for this first game week, and then we'll move over to you lads, if that's okay. So with the first game on Friday, we have Man United against Fulham at Old Trafford. I've predicted 2-0 to Man United. I hope I'm not underestimating Fulham there, but I like what I've seen of United so far in pre-season. Whether I'll still like it when everything kicks off, time will tell. Then on Saturday, we've got Ipswich, Liverpool. I've predicted 3-2 to Liverpool. So, yeah, I'm hoping for an entertaining game there. Might be completely wrong, but there we go. I think Arsenal are going to humble Wolves 5-0. Gone for a big one there. 5-0 to Arsenal. Might not be quite that much, but hey ho. Everton, Brighton 2-1 to Everton. That's what I've gone for. Newcastle, I've predicted to beat Southampton 3-0. Bournemouth 2, Nottingham Forest 0. And I've predicted a draw between West Ham and Aston Villa. Two evenly matched sides, I would say, in the claret and blue. 2-2 for them, I've gone for. Then on Sunday, the final two games, Brentford, Crystal Palace, 2-1 to Crystal Palace, I've gone for. And then the big game, Man City versus Chelsea, I've gone 3-2 to Man City. I reckon that'll be entertaining as well. It normally is between those two, to be fair. So I think Jed was barely holding himself back from giving his thoughts there. So I'll let Jed go first. What are your predictions for the first game week?
I'm surprised into the big game was West Ham Aston Villa, but there we go. Champions League team. Yeah, I agree with you with the Manchester United Fulham game. I think Manchester United will win it. 2 or 3-1. I think Fulham will score against them though. You heard it here first. But Ipswich Liverpool, that was interesting that you thought it'd be such a close game. I think they might score, but Liverpool will be too strong for them. 3-1. I've gone for. Arsenal Wolves, maybe not as much of an obliteration as 5-0, but only 3-1. But again, I'm hoping all the teams score, get a good start to the season. But that's not the same with Everton. I think Everton are going to lose to Brighton 1-0. Not the best, but Newcastle Southampton 3-2. Southampton just coming up. They're a good team. They did dominate the Championship, but the Premier League is going to be a lot different for them. Adam Armstrong's a good forward, but I can see him grabbing a few goals. Forest Bournemouth. I think I don't really fancy, which we're going to talk about. I don't really fancy Forest much, and Bournemouth had just lost Dominic Solanke, so I did see that being a high scoring game. I'm saying 0-0 for that one. And then West Ham Aston Villa. Of course, Villa are going to win. Down the Hammers. Maybe closer than we thought, but I'll go 4-3. Big game in that one. And then Brentford Crystal Palace. 2-2. Crystal Palace are good, but they've lost Elise as well to Bayern Munich. So that's going to be a struggle for them, although they might be getting to hard back. Chelsea Man City. As you said, it's a big game. I think in pre-season they both faced off against each other, and that was quite a good pre-season in America. But in the Prem, I feel like Chelsea might cause an upset here. I think it'll just be 1-1. Man City they don't seem to dominate at the start of the season as much as toward the end of the season when they really go clutch. And then Leicester Spurs, I think Leicester are going to cause an upset there, back from the Championship, 1-0 to the Leicester, to the Foxes. So Josh, what do you think?
I missed Leicester Spurs. Sorry,
Yeah,
beg your pardon. Yeah, I've not got that here, so I'll have to give that some thought. But while I do, we'll hand over to Josh. Josh, let's hear your predictions for the first game week.
I do think Man United will win their opening game of the season, but I'd probably go with I've gone with a 2-1 for that fixture for Man United. They're at home, obviously. It's a bit of a sort of like a stronger suit for most teams. But yeah, I don't know. Like Fulham are one of those kind of like a Wolves almost, like a kind of a bogey team. And so yeah, I can see that being like a 2-1. Ipswich Liverpool. I've gone with a 4-0 Liverpool to them. I cannot see Ipswich scoring against them, to be honest with you. But yeah, there you go. 4-0 to Liverpool on that one. Arsenal versus Wolves. I've gone with a 3-1 Arsenal, I have done it. Arsenal are quite strong at the start of the season. We saw it sort of last season as well. So yeah, I do think I don't know. I can see it being a fairly high scoring game. I feel like Arsenal will take the lead there. So I predicted a 3-1 in that game. The next game we've got Everton Brighton. I have predicted a 1-1. I know both teams have lost several key players anyway, at least. What's his name? Was it Onana? Was it went to Villa? Yeah. Whose name isn't Andre. Brighton, who I actually didn't even notice this until I think it's about an hour ago or something. Brighton have lost, I think it is Pascal Gross, or however you pronounce his name. Have they lost him? I think they have. Yeah, he went to Dortmund. So they've lost key players. So yeah, I've gone for a draw there. For the next fixture, I have gone with Newcastle Southampton. I'm going to go with a 4-0 Newcastle. I don't know. Southampton, I haven't really seen much of them, to be honest, since they got promoted. But I know Newcastle will have a majority of their players back from injury because they were literally cursed last season with injuries from start to finish. Tonali as well will be back from his gambling ban that he got like 8 months for. So yeah, I do think that's gonna be a 4-0, to be honest with you. West Ham, Aston Villa, I've got next. I've gone for a 2-1 Villa, to be honest. I'm going to back my club. So yeah, I can see us. I can either see it sort of being like a 2-1 to either team, but I have gone with a win there for Villa. The next fixture, Forest, Bournemouth. It's a tough game, to be honest with you. Again, both teams have sort of lost players. I would probably go with a 1-1 in that game. For Brentford and Crystal Palace, as you were saying there, Jed, just a minute ago, Elise going to Bayern Munich. That's a big transfer. So yeah, losing one of their star players, I can see that having quite an impact. But I've gone with a 2-2. I've gone with a 2-2 game because they're quite evenly matched teams. It's the opening day of the season. So I thought, both teams will be sort of wanting it more so after the summer break. So going with a draw there. City versus Chelsea. I apologise if you're a Chelsea fan. I've gone with 5-0 City. It sounds outrageous, right? But you've got to think, Haaland hasn't played, and except for pre-season, he hasn't played any international games during the years, obviously, because his team didn't manage to qualify. But I think they're going to be on form in that game. I really, really do. I think Chelsea's pre-season has been a bit lackluster. And so, yeah, I can definitely see Man City taking that game away. Whether it will be a 5-0, that we'll have to wait and see. But I can see City winning it quite comfortably. The last game week, Leicester, Tottenham. Tottenham have just got Solanke, of course. Leicester just getting promoted. I've gone with a 3-0 Tottenham there. So quite some high scoring games, but it's the opening game of the season, isn't it, for each club? So I can see there being a lot of goals. I can't see it being boring. It rarely is a boring opening game week for the beginning of the Premier League. So there's some outlandish results there that I've gone for, but I can see quite a few of them happening, to be honest.
I will match your bet with the Spurs Leicester game. I will also say 3-0 to Tottenham because I'm expecting big things from them this season.
Oh, definitely.
Get into with our full Premier League predictions, but I'll hand back over to you anyway for the next segment.
I thought maybe we could just talk just a few minutes really about some transfers. No, not going to go too in depth. But has any one of you got any sort of transfers that you were maybe perhaps a little bit shocked with, or excited about, maybe perhaps in the new season to come? I don't know. What do you guys think? We'll start with Jed if you want.
Shocking. So there's been a lot of activity. Villa have done well. They've bought Maatsen and Onana. Even though they've lost Douglas Luiz, I'm sure you're going to talk more about that. But I think a lot of the teams have strengthened well that I've heard about. But there's some that seem a bit weaker. But obviously, the transfer window is still open. Talk about one of the ones I'm more excited for that I've chosen my team, actually. A goalkeeper to watch out for. There's not many new goalies, but there's this Carlos Miguel guy for Nottingham Forest. He's 6'8", so he's absolutely massive. So he's going to be Peter Crouch in net.
Just need to lie down in the net, doesn't he? Just lie down and just move his arms around once in a while.
Absolutely massive. João Cancelo's back for City as well. He might be staying, so he'll be dangerous for them. Calafiori, a great signing for Arsenal. I feel like he's going to do well at left back or centre back, wherever he plays. Savinho for City as well. City are looking good again. It's a little steal because what they did was because the City group owns Girona as well, but you're not allowed to transfer teams if you're in the Champions League. But because Savio is on loan from another team that Man City owners own, they can make that transfer. So they've done a sneaky one there to avoid the regulations. And a last few, Barkley for Villa as well. He's going to be good. Füllkrug for West Ham. He's a blinding player for Germany. He gets the goals, so that'll be good for the Hammers. Xerxes, and even though Yora's injured for Man United, I think Xerxes is going to be a pretty good signing. Considering Højlund's injured, so when Xerxes back, that'll be good. Kamada and Sugawara as well, two good Asians for Crystal Palace and Brentford, respectively. Southampton, sorry, Sugawara is. And Dewsbury to Chelsea. That's all the ones I'm mainly excited for. There's probably a few I've missed, though, if you want to include any more.
I mean, like you said, there's quite a lot of transfers. I'm just going through them now as I'm sort of speaking to you guys, but I can talk a little bit more about Villa as well. Obviously, losing Douglas Luiz, sort of our main, obviously, penalty taker for the season. One of our sort of go-to men during the season as well last season. I know we've replaced him, but he kind of had like one of those sort of unique skill sets for like a centre mid where he's very sort of good at dribbling, pulling passes together, and things like that, which you don't usually kind of see from a centre mid, especially being quite good at dribbling. But Obviously, we've replaced him with Anana, who did have quite a good what's it called? Euros, didn't he? He had quite a good Euros for Belgium. Obviously that's why we ended up picking up, I think. So hopefully that can kind of just I don't know, hopefully it can just sort of, you know, bolster the midfield a little bit, and to make up for the loss of Douglas Luiz. Diaby, as well, Musa Diaby. I didn't really see much from him last year. Beginning of the season was okay for him, but he missed so many opportunities during his time for us, where he could have like put us through, you know, put through a few more goals, drew us games, and all that sort of, maybe even won us a few as well. But he just didn't really have that finishing attribute really that you're looking for, and that final touch really. We talked a little bit about Dominic Solanke going to Tottenham. Javen, as well, you were saying about expecting good things from Tottenham, you know, in this upcoming season, especially with the new signing of Dominic Solanke. What do you make of that?
Well, Richarlison wasn't a roaring success for them, was he? There were a few holes still in the Spurs squad in terms of depth, and that seemed to be what was holding them back from doing really well last season. A couple of injuries really knocked them, but I honestly think, you know, we give them a hard time, and rightfully so. You know, they're a bit of a banter club, but when you look at it, things on paper, you think Tottenham seem to be in the right place to be a contender for one of the top spots in the Premier League. So I think they could do quite well. I don't see any reason why they couldn't. The players that they've got, if they're all fit, and the players they're bringing in, I think Solanke was great last season. One thing I have heard some say, though, is that, yeah, okay, he was great last season, but the previous couple of seasons before that, he was a bit underwhelming. So time will tell whether he can continue his quality of form.
I do agree. I mean, last season, as you were mentioning, he was joint fifth top goal scorer and assister for the season. And obviously, Bournemouth would have struggled without him. And as we'll talk about that as well as we go into the predictions for the table next season. But yeah, it's going to be a massive loss for Bournemouth, but an even bigger gain for Tottenham, because they've got a top 5 Premier League goal scorer, sorry, in their armory, so to speak now. So they're going to be a good team next season, I hope, just because, like you said, Tottenham have always been a bit of a bogey, not a bogey team, what's the word? A bit of a meme team almost. And so I kind of would like to see them do better, because they've got the squad around it now that's been built by Ange. So I do think, you know, they will maybe have a bit more of a bite to them next season. A good signing actually for Brentford that I saw, 27.5 million, Fabio Carvalho from Liverpool. I think that's going to be a good signing for Brentford as well. Last season, especially towards the end of the season as well, Brentford were doing a lot good, of course, with like the likes of Wissa. And he was quite a dark horse for the last few games of the season. I think a lot of people were piling him into their teams. So to have Fabio Carvalho join Brentford, I do think is going to be a massive help for them. Some others as well. How Chelsea, by the way, haven't had any sort of financial fair play, I have no idea. But they've signed loads of people. They've gone with Drewsbury Hall from Leicester as well. Pedro Neto they bought from Wolves for 54 mil. So yeah, I do think Chelsea, I don't know, Chelsea are kind of doing almost like a City in the terms of just throwing all the money at like players. Oh, have 50 million, 30 million here. It's like, who are these people they're bringing in? But I don't really think just piling on loads of players is going to sort all of their problems, to be honest with you. So yeah, I can't see Chelsea doing too well this upcoming season, really. The same sort of really goes for last season. I can see them sort of doing the same sort of thing as last season, excuse me. Let's take a look at some others. I'll go through the list. Liverpool, one of the, I think, if not the only team who haven't actually signed anybody yet. They haven't signed a single person. They've released a few. But there we go. Javen, what have you got to say about that? I can see you waving.
Yeah, on the Liverpool front, they were obviously after Martin Zubimendi from Real Sociedad, top player that other big clubs have been after as well. Some people say it's high time he played for a bigger club, but he seems to have a great deal of club loyalty, having rejected Bayern Munich and Arsenal in recent years as well. And he's the latest on him with Liverpool is that he's rejected their latest bid for him. So, and Real Sociedad are planning to try and pin him down to a new contract as well. So, Liverpool might be in for some more disappointments this
I was actually
window.
absolutely. I was saying this as well just before that I'm surprised they released Matip. I was like, they've released it. He was such a good backup defender to have. You could always rely on Matip, and it was just a very loyal player to the club. So I was a bit surprised actually when I saw him being released as well. But maybe they'll make a few, I don't know, more bids maybe between now and the deadline day. But that is obviously we'll have to wait and see. But Man City, of course, massive transfer news for them. They let Julian Alvarez go to Atletico Madrid for 82 million. Fantastic price point for him. He was such a good striker. Really, really good.
It was.
Yeah, he honestly, I know Haaland was the main man at City, but whenever he was having a bit of a bad game, Haaland, it was brought off. Alvarez was brought on. He always had an impact in the game. He is either an assist, he scored one or two, or he made a few key passes, key dribbles. So to be honest with you, I consider that being quite a big loss for Manchester City, despite them getting some good money for him, and obviously him just winning the Copa America as well, just a few weeks ago. But yeah, big loss there for Manchester City, absolutely. But as you were talking about there, Jed, as well, just a moment ago, having João Cancelo back, I'm actually excited to see him back in the Premier League. Obviously, he had that spell at Barcelona. He went there on loan for a season. But I do genuinely think he is one of, if not the best fullback in terms of all round what he can do. Wing back. Attacking wing back in football. He's honestly incredible. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him back. Obviously, unless he's sold between now and the end of the season. Man United, we'll get to that as well now. For Javen, we've got Joshua Zirkzee as well from Bologna in Italy, and Lenny Yoro, I think I pronounced his name correct. I don't know how to pronounce it. I may have just butchered his name. They spent just under 60 mil on the defender there, good old Lenny, and just under 40 mil for Joshua Zirkzee as well, the striker from Bologna, Dutch, if I'm not mistaken, as well. I don't know. What do you make of that? Jed, we'll start with yourself.
Me and the Man United.
Yeah, I mean, or Javen, I don't mind.
I think they did it. It's a good move to get Xerxes. He's a class talent. I was watching him in Serie A.
Yeah.
The highlights every week. He came up with like some composed finishes. Great footballer, and a good backup to Højlund. Unfortunately, Xerxes not fit, and Højlund's injured for the start of the season. So Man United need him back as soon as, and I think Yoro's just completely gone. Mount's back though. He looks like if he hits some form, that could be good for United. Amad Diallo looked fantastic Actually, the whole Manchester United as a whole, when they were attacking, I think they outplayed City attacking wise for most of the game in the Charity Shield. But yeah, so they made a couple of good signings, but I feel like they need, if they're really going to challenge for the top four, they need to make one more like big signing that can change games, because they've lost Varane as well at the back. So
Yeah.
but they did play really well in the Charity Shield, though, so it's positive. But I'll let Jay continue with the rest of the analysis on Man United and his transfers.
Yeah, Jovan, what do you think?
Do I get to talk about transfers now?
Can do.
I think you guys have covered it pretty thoroughly, but first of all, I just want to say Fulkrug to West Ham, unbelievable signing. I'm amazed by it, to be honest. I think he's too good for them, really. But who knows? West Ham could be about to go on a Champions League charge this coming season with the signings they've made, because they've had a pretty good summer in that regard. Man United looking strong, made good signings in a lot of key areas. Got a lot of players fit at the moment, which is good. Not Hoyland, but you know, still got a strong squad. Got a lot of threat there, so that'll be good to see. Aston Villa, I think, are still a good side even with their losses, so I still think that they should do well. Whether they will or not, time will tell. I think Julian Alvarez, he's done the best thing for himself going to Atletico Madrid. A team like that, yeah, okay, you might argue, could he not have gone to, a Barcelona or Real Madrid or something? But he doesn't want to go to another club where he's going to be fighting for places, I think. He wants to play. And obviously Morata's gone to Italy, so there's an opening for a player like Alvarez in the Atletico side. So I think it's a brilliant move for him, because at the tender young age that he's at, he's already completed football. He's won everything he could possibly win so far. So he goes to Spain and plays for a big side there. You never know. Atletico have won it before, and who knows what he'll achieve with them. He's still a fantastic player, and as much as I dislike Man City, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Alvarez, so I wish him all the best with that. Those are my thoughts.
Awesome, yeah. Yeah, like you said, that Fulkrug signing, incredible. I've just been looking at it now as well, while you've been talking about it. They've just got West Ham, this is, by the way, Jean-Claire Tabido as well from Nice, the centre-back, if I'm not mistaken, that is. Yeah, he's gone there on loan with an option to buy as well. So he was a bit of a star as well for Nice, a bit of a good season last season for them as well. So that West Ham are making some good moves, to be honest with you. 27.5 mil for Fulkrug as well as very, very good. I'm not sure how old he is. Actually, I've just looked. Actually, he's 31, so he's still got a few years in him as well as a striker. But Tottenham as well. Well, I'll quickly mention a few about them as well. They Perisic, of course, went. We had Eric Dyer go to Bayern Munich, as we saw as well last sort of few games for Bayern Munich. Emerson Royal went to AC Milan for £12.8 million as well. Shock one that I didn't actually know until a few days ago was Højbjerg. Højbjerg has gone to Marseille on loan. I had no idea until a few days ago. Until I saw him, I packed him on FIFA. And then saw I was like, Marseille, since when? So yeah, he's gone to Marseille on loan as well. Wolves as well made a few signings. Pedro Lima, Rodrigo Gomez, Tommy Doyle from City as well, youngster there as well, if I'm not mistaken, for 4.3 million. They also sold Max Kilman. No, sold him, sorry. No, was it? It's in Max Kilman, West Ham to 40 mil. Pedro Neto, obviously they sold to Chelsea for 54. But Yeah, I do think the Premier League, for certain teams anyway, at least, is definitely going to spice up a little bit more so this season. Man United getting rid of Martial, they released him. Donny van de Beek, I don't really know why they bought him in the first place, to be honest with you. I think it was Solskjaer, wasn't it? I think who bought Donny van de Beek, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Solskjaer or whatever? I think it may have been.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Eric Ten Hag hasn't used him more
I
because
know.
he was in that Ajax team that dominated.
Yeah,
I think he was in charge at that time.
he was. Yeah. But he's gone to Girona for 7.6 million. Camboala as well has gone to Villarreal for 9.6 mil. Isn't it? I think he was a centre back. I think Mason Greenwood, of course, went to Marseille. They sold him after the bit of the controversy as well from last season. And Alvaro Fernandez they sold to Benfica for 5.1 million as well. So that is really pretty much it. We've covered most of the transfers that have come into the Premier League for the upcoming season. What we can do now is we can, unless of course you guys want to add anything to what we've just been talking about, we're going to perhaps move now on to the Premier League table for next season. This is where things spice up a little bit as well. As I say, guys, for those who are listening, if you guys want to put your predictions, who you think perhaps is going to win the title next season, who you maybe perhaps think is going to get relegated as well, be sure to put your thoughts down into the comment section below to let us know, of course. Who wants to go? Well, we'll go with you, Javen, first. Javen is gonna have an aneurysm in a minute. So, go on, sorry, Jed.
I was going to say, should we each do our position like we all do 20th and discuss that, or do you want to just?
Yeah, we'll just go. We'll just name from first to last who's going to do it. So if Javen starts, and then just say who's going to, of course, finish first, who's going to win, who's going to come second, third, fourth, all the way down to the bottom, who's going to get relegated.
Well, as a compromise, if I could speak over Jed for a second, I was going to start with 20th, and then
you can start at the bottom.
So I won't take too long. Don't worry. 20th, Wolverhampton. I don't know why I'm not rating them. I don't know.
Wow.
But
no way. No way.
We've gone for the same, Jed. That's great.
Yeah.
Right. 19th, Southampton. I don't think they'll be good enough. I just don't. Nottingham, 18th. I don't think they are. Yeah, I'm gutted because the club themselves I really like, but the team I'm not convinced. Not yet, anyway.
Even though they got a giant goalkeeper now.
So those are the ones that I am going for relegation, sadly. I think Ipswich will just about scrape survival because I like them and I like what I've seen of them, and I'm a hopeful man. So Ipswich 17th, Fulham 16th, Brighton 15th, Everton 14th, Brentford 13th, Leicester City 12th, Bournemouth 11th. I've put Bournemouth a little higher up because every time we underestimate Bournemouth, they make us all look like fools. So I'm putting Bournemouth at 11th. Crystal Palace 10th. So that's the bottom half of the table sorted. Now we get into juicy territory. As I said, West Ham on a bit of a charge, I think, with the transfers they've been making. I don't want them to do well because of how they treated David Moyes, but I can't argue with what busy summer they've been having. So I put West Ham in 9th, then Chelsea in 8th. I don't think Chelsea are going to have a dramatically better season this coming season. I just don't. I think they're still a bit all over the place. They're in a bit of disarray. They'll have a few standout players and a few amazing matches, no doubt, but I don't think they've got the consistent stability that they need to really succeed. Aston Villa, I've put in 7th. As I said, I still think they're a good side, so we'll see. Liverpool, I've put in 6th. I think they'll put it down to being Arne Slot's first year, his first season, getting settled in. They'll be like, give him time, give him time. I think a few things just are going to be said to have not gone Liverpool's way, either with transfers or certain players not reaching their full potential. Obviously, you've got players like Salah still, but they're not, they've been there quite a while, so who knows. Newcastle I've put in fifth. I think Newcastle have got a point to prove, especially after last season. I think they'll be up there contending strongly. Man United, I think, will squeeze into the top four. I think they are good enough this year. I don't think there's any more excuses can be made for them, really, especially with the transfers they've made to strengthen their squad even further. So Man United in fourth. But Man City, I've put in third. I think Pep's last season with Man City, or potential last season with Man City, will end the same way that his first season with them did. It's poetry, it rhymes. So a third place finish for Man City, I've predicted. I've put Tottenham in second. Okay, I think Tottenham will have a really good season, but the Spurs curse will remain. And who will beat them to number one spot? Arsenal. Arsenal are your Premier League champions, finally, in my opinion. Those are my predictions.
Some solid predictions there.
I agree with
Jed, what do you think? What have you predicted
You're
for
mine.
2025 Premier League season?
David, you need to check off how many we've got in the same position here because it's quite a few. So I've got Wolverhampton at 20th as well. They've lost Max Kilman, who in my opinion was their best defender. They've also lost Pedro Neto, who was their best attacker. And they haven't really signed anybody of note that I know of anyway. João Gomez will be good for them, but yeah, it's just not going to be enough. They're going to have a shocker of a season. Southampton also in 19th and Bournemouth in 18th because Bournemouth have lost Solanke. And they're a good team on their day, but they've not strengthened really in the right positions. And I just feel like they're going to go down without the goals of Solanke. Keep them up. Ipswich will just about scrape survival as well. They're not the most impressive team, but they've got some good young players, good talent, and take it a bit of a shock. Nottingham, I thought would have gone down until they signed that massive keeper. He's going to make some key saves. Watch him, Miguel. Crystal Palace 15th. They've lost Elise. They've got Daichi Kamada, who's pretty good, but it won't really be enough to find the top half. Fulham, they've got Smith Rowe as well, a guy we forgot, so he'll play quite a key figure, but they've lost Polinia. So unfortunately, I think they're going to finish 14th. Everton 13th. They'll have a decent season. Hopefully they won't have any more points deductions, even though they're threatened with them again. But they've lost Onana as well, who was key in their midfield and will be key in Villa's midfield now. Brighton, who, as Josh said, they've lost Pascal Gross, who's one of their best players, and not really noted, not really anyone exciting they've signed, in my opinion. Leicester City will finish 11th. I back them to do well, even though they've lost Dewsbury Hall to Chelsea. They've got a point to prove. Then we've got Brentford in 10th. Ivan Toney's back for the whole season, hopefully. But also they've got that Igor Thiago striker's quite good. Hopefully he comes back from injury soon, the one they've signed. Newcastle 9th. I don't think they've not really made any good signings, considering how much money they've got at the moment. They need to be splashing the cash like Chelsea, really. Who are above them in 8th. I think Pedro Neto is going to do well for them this season. Despite not a massively impressive pre-season. Maresca needs to make sure they gel. But it is the history of the Chelsea. They don't tend to gel very well. West Ham in 7th. They'll do really well with Fulkrug, and as you said, Tadibo. They're going to be a surprise package this season. Villa will hold on to Europe with 6th as well. I think they're not going to do as well as last season, but they're still going to do decently. They've got some good signings, and hopefully they'll do really well in Europe. Man United just going to miss out on Champions League for me in 5th, because they're going to miss out to Tottenham at 4th. Big fat Tottenham. See, James got angry at that one, but they could prove me wrong. Just they've got injuries at the moment with the new signings. So Tottenham 4th. They could be big this season if all the new signings do well. Liverpool 3rd. They always tend to do well. They haven't made any signings yet, but Jota has been absolutely on fire. And as we know, he's my best mate because I met him in Dobbies once. and Man City in 2nd, because Arsenal are bringing the title home, baby. Finally. That's my predictions. Very similar to Javen's, but not the same. Very different.
Yeah, I agree.
We are not the same.
I agree with some of your guys' predictions, but well, you're about to say, aren't you? But so dead last. I've gone with Ipswich.
Ooh.
I don't think I don't think they'll do that well, to be honest with you. In the slightest. I know they came 2nd in the table last season, in the Championship, but I don't know. I just can't see them. I can't see them getting out of the relegation zone, and I genuinely think this bottom half of the table is going to be virtually impossible to predict accurately because of how many teams I think have lost good players, and who are just going to be fighting it out to stay up out of the relegation zone. So I think it's going to be quite an interesting season. 19th, I've gone for Nottingham. I've gone for Forest, Stephen. Again, I can't really see them getting out of the relegation zone. I mean, they could prove me wrong, but yeah, I can't particularly see it happening, to be honest with you. My next prediction in 18th, I have gone with Bournemouth. I agree with Jed in the sense that they've lost their key striker. I think for any team out of the top 6, really, to lose their main striker in the Premier League is going to have massive detrimental effects to them. So I can't see them getting out of. I can see them getting relegated. And if it wasn't for Dominic Solanke last season, they'd have been, I think it was like 16th or 17th in the table. So they'd have been down there anyway. So yeah, I do think that if it wasn't for him, and it's, they would have struggled last season as well. So that's my prediction for 18th. 17th, I've gone for Southampton. Obviously, they've been in the Premier League multiple times before. I think they'll just scrape by. But again, the last sort of 4 are so hard to predict. They really, really are. 16th, I've gone for Leicester, even though they won the league last season in the Championship. I don't really see them getting relegated, but I can see them sort of lingering quite low in the latter half of the table. Wolves I've put in 15th. We talked about them losing quite a few key players as well. And so, yeah, I think they'll finish around there, to be honest with you. Which one was it that put them in the relegation zone? Was it you, Javen? Was it? I think you put them in, what was it?
We both had them rock
bottom. Put them 20.
Really? Wow. I don't think that's going to be the case, to be honest. I think they'll be lower down. I think they'll be lower down, but I can't see them getting relegated, to be honest with you. Brentford, I've put 14th in the table. They've made a good signing in Carvalho. I think he'll bring some flair to the team, add a bit of, extra attack for next season. 12th, I've put Fulham. They always kind of do fairly decently in the Premier League as well. So they kind of come around that. They were 13th last season, so I can kind of see them finishing around there as well. They were 10th the season before that. So I think, give or take a few spaces, they'll finish around 12th next season. Brighton, I have put in 11th. I know they've lost one good player, but I can't see them finishing much lower than that, to be honest with you. Crystal Palace, I've put in 10th. I know they've lost Olise, but they're still quite a good bogey team for a lot of teams out there. So I still think they'll finish, pretty decently. Chelsea, I've gone for 9th. I think that they've got good players, but they're not gelling together. And it needs more than just throwing money at to fix, like I say, all of their problems. So I think because they've got a good team in terms of the people that they've, signed, not necessarily how they gel, but names on paper, I think that they will finish 9th. West Ham have gone for 8th. Again, this is where it gets a bit tricky within the next, couple, the next couple of predictions. West Ham have made some good signings, as we talked about as well, and so I can see them finishing fairly high. Man United have put 7th. I can't really see the defender that they've bought making too much of a difference, to be honest with you, considering I'd never ever heard of him in my life up until 2 weeks ago, or whenever it was that they signed him. And that Dutch striker that they signed as well. Again, he's kind of like a Højlund, 6'2", 6'3", strong, fast, physical. But I don't think he's Premier League top quality as a striker. Obviously, time will tell, but I've put Man United 7th for the time being. Aston Villa have put 6th. I think we'll finish, give or take, maybe a few spaces around where we finished last season. I think we will finish a bit lower because we've lost a few players. We may even finish a bit lower than that, maybe 7th. But I've gone for 6th for Villa. Newcastle, I've put up in 5th. We talked about it a couple of minutes ago. They have something to prove, as you said, Javen. I do genuinely think if it wasn't for last season, them being absolutely riddled with injury issues, I honestly think they'd have finished higher than last season. And they've got a good team, Newcastle do. Spurs have put in 4th. I'd like to see Spurs get higher than that. I think they still need time to gel. Hopefully they've done that in pre-season. Christian Romero, Jed's showing me a football card there. But yeah, I can see Spurs finish around 4th. They typically finish around there anyway, so it wouldn't be a surprise. Liverpool, I've gone for 3rd. I think they're still a great team. They've had a good pre-season. I think that they will finish in the top 3. I can't see them getting any higher than that. They've got a new manager. They need time to gel, but I still think with the players and the quality that they've got, they're going to finish 3rd. I think 2nd, I think Arsenal are going to get 2nd. We've seen it so often from them, just bottling the league with the last 6, 7 or 8 games to go. It happens year upon year. I cannot see this year being any different whatsoever. And so, yeah, I've gone with Arsenal finishing in that position in 2nd. And it kind of goes back really as well to the transfers as well a little bit. They've only made, I think it's 4 transfers. I know they've got that new centre-back, Calafiori, or however you pronounce his name, the Italian. But I don't think that's going to be enough. I think their defence was quality last season, so I don't think their defence is going to be bolstered much more anyway for next season. And of course, first, yet again, not that I want this to happen in any way, shape or form, but I think that Manchester City will win again, which will bore the life out of absolutely everybody who watches the Premier League, because if I'm not mistaken, this will be the 5th year in a row that they will win it, perhaps, if they do, of course, make it all the way. So yeah, I hope it doesn't pan out that way, so who knows, we'll have to just wait and see. But that's my prediction for the Premier League table. So there we go. Anyone else want to add anything, of course, or contest anybody's perhaps predictions?
I might be having slight regrets over putting Bournemouth so high, but I'm going to stay hopeful for them, even though they've lost Solanke, and think that somehow they'll pull it out the bag. But yeah, that's the only one I'm doubting in myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, like we were talking about, losing your key striker does not help anybody. It'd be almost like if Villa lost Watkins. We don't really have a backup for him, like an out and out striker. So if he were to go, despite us having, some decent quality, I don't think that, we'd finish in the top 10 without someone like Watkins. So I do think that's why I put them 18th,
But time a striker, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
All these teams have the potential to sign more players. You've got Liverpool, Brighton, all, so it could completely change.
Yeah.
That's disclaimer.
I know, disclaimer, but
You two are a lot more hopeful with regard to Liverpool than I am. I really don't have high hopes for Liverpool. I think being in the top sixes will be good for them this coming season if they view it as like a building project after Klopp leaving. I just think Klopp no longer being there is going to be a massive blow in itself, no matter who they bring in. I don't know. Time will tell. I might be wrong. They might still be top three contenders, like you both think they will be, but I'm just not convinced because I think other teams are looking so good right now that it might be too much for Liverpool to quite squeeze in there.
Yeah, he was like a father figure to all the players, wasn't he? I don't think anybody really disliked Klopp, to be honest. And so having him go, of course, is it's a massive loss, not just for Liverpool, but I think for the whole, Premier League really is like in general. But yeah, it'll be an interesting season, obviously, won't it? Like you said, Jed, as well, there's still going to be signings to be made. Hopefully more signings will be made for certain teams like Bournemouth. Perhaps I know they've made the signing of Unal. I don't know if that's pronounces or Unal, the Turkish striker. They signed him for 14 million. So he's kind of a replacement for Dominic Solanke. They're kind of similar in their play style as well, but will it be enough? I don't know. We'll have to obviously, just wait and see, really. But there we go.
I'm hoping that when Isaac gets his 30 goals for Newcastle, then Jed will dramatically regret putting them in ninth.
Yeah, I do think ninth is criminal, Jed, to be honest with you.
There's so many better teams.
Yeah, but how you've put Newcastle in ninth? Ninth?
I did want to put...
team's going to be better than last season. And last season, they finished seventh. And they were playing their reserves teams. They were playing GCSE students last season. They're going to finish higher this season than they did than last. I guarantee it.
Maybe. Oh yeah, we'll see. Also, Paul have been good in pre-season. They smashed Sevilla 4-1 recently. As I said, Jota's on fire. But pre-season doesn't really mean anything once the season starts. So we'll have to see. This is just purely based on what I've seen over pre-season and the signings that the teams have made.
If pre-season was an accurate idea of how the actual season was going to go, then Anthony Martial would have won 2 Ballon d'Ors during his time at Man United, because he would always be coming out the gates like looking like a world-class Messi type player during pre-season when they went off to play in America or whatever, and then the actual season would start and you'd think, where is this player that we thought we had? So
Gabriel Jesus.
Pre-season isn't necessarily the be-all end-all of who's going to succeed, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, it was like that for Villa last season, wasn't it? Alex Ferguson mentioned in pre-season when we faced Newcastle, he was like, of all the teams he saw, he said that Aston Villa were the ones that surprised him the most in terms of like just how, even though we got beat, like I think it's like 4-0 or something stupid.
That wasn't pre-season. That was in the one of the first games of
No, we
the.
lost to them in the pre-season and one of the first opening games of the season as well. It was pretty much the same sort of scoreline. But even though we lost heavily to them, we ended up pulling it back in the end. So yeah, preseason doesn't really mean anything, to be honest with you. It's just a time to just play random tactics to get used to the team, settle in, and then all ready for the next sort of season to come. So it'll be an interesting season. I have no doubts there at all. But there we go. Awesome.
Gonna play a quick game. Are you wrapping it up?
We'll save your game for the next episode because otherwise we'll be here for months. Nah, but yeah, we'll start with Jed's game in our next episode to come. Right then, guys. Hopefully you all enjoyed the episodes today. As I said before, if you want to put your predictions in the chat as well, you're more than welcome to. But in the meantime, guys, enjoy the rest of your day, and we will speak to you guys in the next episode. See you all very, very soon.